Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I am your host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff, and joining me after a small illness is my co-host, my co-laborer in the vineyard, and expert investment analyst, Terrence Hollisworth. Terry, good evening, my brother.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you feeling?
Better. Uh, it was a long week and a half, right? But
Talk about it, man. You
uh,
went to the nation's capital, right?
yeah, we go out there and we were, doing some work and lobbying, really to try and make sure that money is funneling into our college students so that they have, access to Pell Grant and, you know, uh, other services not being cut and things like that. But, I always enjoyed my time in DC.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But speaking of cutting, man, I mean, the president, Donald Trump, some people call him, different things. And, the bottom line is he wants a huge cut, particularly with the federal government workers across the board, federal contractors and, non-essential employees, employees who are newly hired or on probation, through 90-day probationary period. He wants all that cut. And OPM, Office of Personnel Management, they said they already have a plan in place to cut the workforce by up to 50%. What are your thoughts about that? And in particular, with one person who isn't from the United States, Elon Musk, dictate the actions of our country. What do you think?
Yeah, that's that's one of the things that, you know, uh, is probably the toughest conversation that there is because we know that we have too much debt. Government probably is a little bit too big. The problem is that while everybody's fighting about DEI and we're having all these conversations about boycotting and all these things, as a Black community, I think we're having the wrong conversation. So when you look and see what actually happened, in the same time that we've been fighting and talking about, not shopping at Target and things like this, Elon Musk
Right.
got 700
Walmart.
um, million dollars worth of new contracts, right? And we all knew it was
Right.
going to be it
Right.
was a money grab on some level, but we have to
Right.
make sure that our strategies are reflective of getting something out of this, right? Um,
Right.
so that's probably the thing that's probably the thing that's most concerning to me is that I think that our strategy does not align with what we should be looking forward to or how we should be properly positioned.
Sure.
Um, there's a there's a thing that happened in Maywood that I think most people missed. Yeah, we're talking about the casino
Yeah.
and the casino, the money that's going to come to the village of Maywood
Mhm.
from the casino. How many people knew that the people of Maywood could have actually been owners of the casino through a private placement that happened? So you could have put up as little as $250 and been the owner of the casino. And we missed it. I didn't miss it, but most people missed it, right?
Well, they miss it probably because they're not going to publish it. They're not going to say, "Hey, you can have a piece of the casino, the bigger the piece of the pie, if you do this." Not especially not for our community. I mean, is that right?
Well,
Am
it
I base
was
with
out
that
there and it came out there
analogy?
late. It came out there late. I found out about it on Monday. It closed on Friday. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is why was the village of Maywood and the leadership not communicating that to the community, right? Um, Surely they had to know,
Question.
right? And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is, and the village of Maywood is in a supreme deficit right now. Although there's been movement economically by bits and pieces, having businesses starting in Maywood, which is always a good thing. And my question has always been, as you know, Terry, where does the casino fit in the funds, the revenue is generated, or the funds is generated from the casino? Where is that implemented in the strategic plan? How does,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
that is the biggest thing over this election right now because as our guest is going to talk about, you need a strategic plan because if the park district is going to be a standalone entity, or are they going
maybe,
to be owned or run by the village, right?
right, right,
And these things are changing. We need to have these conversations in a very transparent way so that
right,
voters can go and really, number one, show up to vote, but number two, know who they're voting for that has their best interests at heart.
absolutely. We I've been in touch with Mayor Booker. He will be on the show in the near future. We're looking forward to having a conversation with him. We'll also have mayoral candidate um, Aaron Pep Peppers,
Okay.
who's currently a trustee. Aaron Peppers, who I've known practically since childhood, and also Dr. Mary Larry. She's going to be on in the near future. So we have these mayoral candidates as well as trustees who are going to graze our podcast and just share their thoughts, their vision about moving Maywood forward. But again, if you don't have a strategic plan and you don't implement the strategic plan, you don't have an economic alliance, you don't have a vision. And the word says, my people perish for lack of vision. So I'm interested in hearing the vision of these mayoral candidates, and particularly Mayor Booker, because he's in that seat right now, as well
Yeah.
as trustees and Madam Dawn Williams, who's going to come on in just a few moments. So, we need to have that information. I'm glad that we provide the space for our guests to come on and talk about this because we don't do got you. We don't do
Right.
catch you in a lie or that kind of thing. So we let the people who, type their comments on the podcast. And in most cases, I will read a question from the podcast, from those who are typing questions and comments in the podcast. So please, for those of you who are viewing us live, state your question or your comment for any guests who come on, because that's what we're about. We're about space where we do not show favoritism. We are not subject to anyone except for God. And we make sure that we are as transparent as we possibly can be. So I'm excited. I just want to ask you one more question, Terry.
Yeah.
In spite of everything that's happening on a national level, and with Donald Trump in office making a deal with Zelensky and trying to get access to minerals in Ukraine in order to continue sending money to Ukraine, we see the stock market, not plummeting, but it's not progressing. It's not progressive. So, how does that impact us nationally, and how does that impact us as a community, in particular like a community like Maywood?
So the best way to think about this is this way. Um, the stock market, here's a stock market 101. Every day the market is trying to find fair value. All right. And so as these things are adjusting, tariffs come on and companies make less money and things like this, the stocks have to adjust to that. But the money is not coming out of the market. It's moving from one sector to the another. People are taking profit because maybe they have low costs and they see that the company may not be making as much money over the next quarter or the next year or something like this. What
Mhm.
we have to make sure we do is have exposure, right? More than
Correct.
anything else, we have to be in the game. We have to be investing, and that's our only hope. At the end
Right.
of the day, um, you're not putting money in the bank, and it's growing more than inflation. Um,
Mhm.
you know, um, we know that credit card debt is at an all-time high. So
It
when you
is.
see your neighbors and your friends, some of them are not living. they're not making more money. They're financing their lifestyle. And
Right.
so maybe that puts some solace into you to say, I don't have to keep up with the Joneses. I can live my life. I can run my race.
Yeah.
And hopefully that involves investing in the stock market, right?
Pastor Marvin Wiley from Rock of Ages Baptist Church in Maywood, he used to always say, don't try to keep up the Joneses. If you know that you're going through something financially and you're going through a season of turbulence with your finances, let the Jones win, because you don't know what they're going through next door.
Yeah.
You know, they may have problems. There may be the reason why they don't have furniture in their living room and their drapes
Yeah.
are always closed, you know, because they may be house rich and cash poor, you know, trying to show off. And we cannot afford to show off on material possessions, because that will turn into our God with a little g. And we just have to think better. We have to be smarter. So,
So the last thing I'll say about this is, when I started managing money, 1997, and somewhere along the way, early on, I was prospecting the guys, trying to get him as a client, and he lived up in Northbrook. You know, uh, Drove a big car. His wife drove a big car. They had a country club membership, and the furnace went out in their house, right?
mhm.
And they couldn't afford to get the furnace fixed.
Mm,
So he and his wife both, before going to work in the morning, they went to the country club, right?
mm,
So that they could take a shower and
right,
things like this. Not
right.
because that they were in the working out and stuff. So, like you said, people are going through things that we don't fully understand all the time, and so therefore, um, you got to run your own race. Is what it comes down to.
Terrence and I, we travel wherever necessary to get the word out about finances. The ministry of finance, that's the thing. It's in the Bible all the way through the Old Testament in particular. It's greater than Malachi 3:10. I can assure you that. And him being the PK, me being educator as well and a licensed ordained minister, we know what we're talking about when it comes to finances and what the word says about it, even from a secular standpoint. If you're not one of those who get educated on finance in the church, we go to homes where we help start investment clubs. We go to colleges. We go to community centers. Wherever it is, our calling is, we answer the bell. So if you have any questions regarding finances, your personal finance, or just wanting us to host or facilitate a finance class, reach out to me at sratliff68@yahoo.com. That's sratliff68@yahoo.com, and we'll be more than happy to oblige either in person or online. And with that said, thank you, Terry. As always, we're going to move forward with our guests. I'm on tiptoes of anticipation to introduce our next guest. Her name is the Honorable Dawn Williams. Mrs. Williams grew up on the north side of Chicago in a multicultural neighborhood. Her paternal family has lived in Maywood since the 1950s. She grew up participating in many after-school and summer programs in the village, as well as Chicago Park District. She's been a homeowner in Maywood since 2009. She's employed with a corporate event and catering company. As an entrepreneur, Mrs. Williams assists clients as a land acquisition consultant. She's a mother of 2 adult children and a proud grandmother, and humbly serves as a president of the Maywood Park District. Just a couple projects I'm going to list right fast. In 2006, she volunteered for the Maywood 125th anniversary celebration. It was appointed to the Village of Maywood Special Events Committee in 2006. She served as chair of the Maywood Special Events Commission from 2009 through 2013. Being on the commission, allowed her to work with a diverse group of citizens to provide community-wide activities and recreational opportunities, as well as providing community service hours to the youth that volunteered. And at this time, without further ado, I'd like to bring on the Honorable Dawn Williams.
Good evening, Reggie, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for
I really
joining us.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to join us tonight. I know that you're in the midst
I grew
of.
up on the north side of Chicago.
Yeah.
So, hear me?
Yeah, there's a slight delay, but I
Oh,
can hear you.
okay.
So you said you grew up
All right, no
on the
problem.
north side?
Yeah, I grew up on the north side of Chicago. Even though I was born here in Maywood, I grew up on with my mother on the north side of Chicago, and but my dad's side of the family lived here in Maywood. My grandfather was Donald Williams Sr., and he was here as a pharmacist and grew into a prominent businessman. He also was the mayor here in Maywood, uh, and he was the West Suburban NAWACP
Mhm.
chapter president, where he recruited Fred Hampton, young Fred Hampton, when they were
Mhm.
staged doing all these walkouts in Proviso East. And then
Yeah,
also my grandmother on my mom's side of the family was very active in the community, a community activist. She was a missionary at the projects and Robert Taylor's, and she would be involved, had us involved with this food pantry and the soup kitchen, as well as the clothing ministry. So I have it on both sides of
right,
the family. My dad's side of the family was representative as well as Cook County clerk. So I come
right.
from a large family who served in the Maywood
Absolutely,
community. And I'm very and
absolutely.
I'm Maywood Park District Board for 12 years now. For two terms, the
Mhm.
Maywood voters voted me in. Two terms, two
Right.
6-year terms.
To 6 year terms.
I have been active since 2006, and I have not stopped. And I partnered
Right.
with Barbara Cole in 2008 with a
There's a
summer
slight.
youth bicycle camp, the Cycling Crusaders. And Barbara Cole get a lot of events here. We create a lot of events. I created School District 209, PACE. And so there's a lot of different organizations that play in the news, in the media, and social
Mhm.
media about the Park District and about me personally. And I
Yes,
have held my tongue. I am a woman of faith and with
yes.
prayer. And the scripture of First Peter 5, chapter verses 6 and 7, it
Mhm.
says, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time and cast all
Amen.
your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And
Amen.
I've been quoting scripture daily, and I've asked the Lord to just give me strength and guidance. And now I am prepared to tell the truth and to tell my story
All right.
about what is going on
And this
in
is
the
the
Maywood
space.
Park District.
Yeah, this is
And
the
this
space
has
to do it.
not happened overnight.
Yeah, yeah, it hasn't happened overnight. It's been
Yes,
a
it is.
process.
And
I remember. I remember back when you and I we've known each other for decades. I mean, I know your family. I've known your family since I was a child. I your your granddad. The late Honorable um, Reverend Don Williams from State Farm Insurance. He was always a man of integrity. Also he's coming from the same stock at Second Baptist Church. Under Pastor Sykes, he was faithful. He was diligent, and he cared so much that we would have Bible study on Tuesday nights at his home on 16th Avenue, and it would be myself, Randy McFarland, his cousin Michael Green, another young man whose name escaped me, but it was so long ago. I mean, we were, in elementary school, and he always, treated us with popcorn, old fashioned popcorn
wow.
and Kool Aid. I mean, you don't forget things like that. He had a huge impact. We would go to his house, study for an hour, and talk about the Word of God. He didn't tell us we were wrong. He didn't, demean us if we were off, with our opinion. Even when we expressed emotion, he was very patient. And I remember he would come to our baseball games, our Little League baseball games, and our Pony League baseball games. the year we won the state championship, you know, he was there to greet us, to honor us at the parade. And I mean, you know, he gave me a special card when I went to make the payment, you know, at his office. You know, my dad would send me right over the railroad tracks to make the payment of our monthly insurance, and he gave me a card. And I mean, you know, he was a blessing to the community. He was an asset to his community. And then his wife, I mean, Hathaway Insurance across the street, you know. It was just a blessing. Those are awesome times. It was when the community was cohesive. Surely there was some subtle division here and there. Everybody didn't always agree, but we weren't disagreeable. You know, I mean, everybody didn't love Mayor Freelon. Everybody didn't love, you know, Mayor Yarbrough. Everybody didn't love Mrs. Yarbrough. Everybody didn't love Mayor Williams. I mean, that's just human nature. So there's no surprise that everybody doesn't love Don Williams, you know. But unlike back then, there's something now called social media. And social media can be a bane to many people's existence. And, you know, you're catching a lot of heat as a president of the board. And we're going to get into that. So I want to start off, though. And not to mention, you mentioned Barbara Cole. Barbara Cole, all right, she's been diligent for decades in the village of Maywood. I mean, she could have ran her nonprofit from anywhere in Proviso Township, anywhere. She's actually from the Washington, D.C. area, and so was the late Honorable Mrs. Karen Yarbrough. You know, they both grew up in the D.C. area. So they could have done like things out here in the DMV, but they decided to plant their seed and let it grow in tiny old village of Maywood. And what a job Barbara Cole has done as well. And surely, you know, Miss Yarbrough, she's missed, she will be missed, as well as other pioneers. Mr. Eugene Moore, can't forget about him in his life insurance business. I mean, so many people have crossed our paths, and that's why you and I get back to our community without shame.
Exactly. And I'm proud that my family has been citizens and taxpayers, and I am a servant of God and this community. I have not stopped serving. So, and we are a serving family, you know, because my kids serve in the community. I got my kids involved when I was involved. And so that's what it takes, is people to be servants, not only of God, but also servants in this community. But Maywood Park District was segregated. You know, it was 4 different parks. You know, you had the North Park, you had the West Park, you had Central Park, and then you had the Village of Maywood Recreation Department. So, and that was because Maywood was segregated and the people of color could only go to one park. But when they did combine them, you know, the Central Park was our park district, which is the Maywood Park District. And we have Burton Park on 16th and Washington. We have Bosco Park on 22nd and Railroad. We have Chris Welch Park at 1015 South 10th Avenue. And we also have here our Central Park campus. So we have those parks that we manage. And then the Village of Maywood have the other parks that we manage. So
So it was once
Reggie.
called the Central Area
Good.
Park District, right? Wasn't it called one
Yes.
of them called Central Area Park District? Yeah. And isn't it the fact
And
that
that's what we're
go ahead, no, go ahead.
Yeah, Central Park is right here. 921 South 9th Avenue. That is the Central Park campus, which is 921 South 9th, and it encompasses the 809 West Madison, which is the Kimberly Lifer Center. So that
Right.
is the Central Area Park. Yes.
Right. And a little history. Is it true that nuns used to live in the park district when they years and years ago?
It was an orphanage.
Orphanage.
So this building was an orphanage. There was 2 buildings. So this one was the brand new building that they built, and then the 921, which has the original basement, the 921 building, that was a huge mansion that housed the orphanage as well. But that one was torn down, and they transferred all the operations over here to the 809 West Madison building, and that was the orphanage of the bigger building. They could house more kids. So yeah.
And matter of fact, the 200 building right down the street, they used to have a movie theater on the third floor, right? Second or third floor. They show movie. They used to have cotillions. Um,
Yeah, that
wait,
is the,
is that correct?
yeah, the Masonic Temple.
Yep.
Yeah, the Masonic Temple. It does have a movie theater on that third floor. I've been up there personally and seen it. Reggie, I know when you had the Eternal Light Ministries at the 200 South Fifth Avenue building, when I was on the Special Events Commission, and you were active in that facility with your programs going
Yeah.
on. So yes, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. That's amazing when I saw that. So a lot of history, a lot of history. But I always
Yeah,
believe
it
that
is.
yeah, if you don't know where you come from, you won't know where you're going. So knowing a historical perspective about
Exactly. Exactly.
mhm. So I want to,
Yeah, and I appreciate the.
yo, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
There's a
I'm
delay.
sorry. Go ahead, Reggie.
You go
Yeah,
ahead.
I
Go.
said I appreciate the vote. I appreciate the voters that have elected me 2 times to serve on the Park District Board, and I thank you, and I want to continue to serve. I am a write-in candidate, and even if I'm not successful, I will continue to serve in this community. There are 4 seats up during this election in April 1, and unfortunately, I forgot to number my petitions, so I am a write-in candidate, which I think that is a awesome challenge. But we'll get the job done. So, but I am a write-in candidate. There are 4 seats. There's 3 6-year terms and 1 2-year term that's up.
And how many candidates are there total?
There's 13 candidates. Yeah,
Wow.
there's 13 candidates that's running for a park district. And I've been on the park district board since 2013, but I've been active and going to the park district board meetings ever since 2005.
Yeah.
And I've been watching Park District personally myself because my own 2 kids were involved in the Maywood Park District summer camp program since 2001. So I saw a lot of things that was
Right.
going on then. And, I called up my aunt Karen Yarbrough, and I asked her, I said, look, there's a lot of stuff going on over here. How do we make changes? She said, you start going to the meetings and then you
Yeah.
get involved.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
And
so
this is
that's
where
what
you
I
get.
did. And I've been involved. Right. And I have not stopped being involved in my community. If I wasn't involved and active, then the voters would not have voted me in 2 different times. But
Right.
what
You're
people
right.
have to realize, what you have to realize, I've been on the board for 11 years. This is my 12th year. Um, during every 2 years, there's an election. And when there's an election, if you've got Maywood Park District has 5 board members. So when every 2 years, if there's an election, if you have 3 people that are the majority of the board, then they come in with their ideas and their perception of what is park and recreation and what it entails. So then those 3 have the board majority, and then they're the ones that take over. And basically, you're just one vote on the board. And then in another 2 years, there's an election. So since I've been on the board, there's been 10 board presidents and 5 executive directors. And once again, when you have someone that has control of the board, then the majority, it's what they want to see, their vision and their perception of the parks. And that's how that is. So when people say, well, Dawn, you've been on the board for 10 years and you haven't done X, Y, and Z, it's not me doing this by myself.
Right.
When you have an election every 2 years, there's new people that come on.
Right.
And then
Right.
those new people, they have their mindset to what they want. And you just have to comply and try to get the job done the best way you possibly can. The
Yep.
Maywood
So
Park
you got
District
people.
has not had a fair.
You
I'm
got people
sorry.
coming in every 2 years with different agendas. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, I'll put out in 2015 the board majority, which that was Bill Hampton, uh, Robbie Grace, and Lincoln Smith. They told me, as a group of men, they told me on the board I needed to be seen and not heard. So, and at that time, we had a qualified attorney that was well versed in municipal government and park district law. Well, they didn't want her to be on there, so they wanted to have a local as the African American man to represent the Park District Board, and he was general counsel, and he practiced general law. Was not versed in municipal government, but there was nothing that I could do because this is what they wanted. So they got rid of the Park District qualified legal counsel, and then that's what happened. And so
Yeah,
laws that every year there's new laws that are updated that need to be adapted to our policy that wasn't being done. So that when you come in and you say this is what I want to do, you don't understand what the long term effects that may have.
absolutely. I want to dig into this subject a little bit deeper, Don, and it's the legal battle between the village board and the Maywood Park District. I recall in 2007 when a referendum was initiated and the community voted, right? Can you talk about that? Provide a little background information about that referendum and then
Mhm.
what was the results of that? And then kind of like go through the timeline of what is taking place because I know it's still under a legal, you know, uh, whatever construct, and you can't really talk too much about it. But what you can talk about publicly, can you just kind of take us through that timeline, starting with that referendum in '07, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Henderson Yarborough was the mayor during that time, and they saw that there was a lot of duplication of services within the community of different organizations doing this, as well as the park district. And what they said was that it should be one consolidated park district. So they put it on the referendum on the ballot for it to be one consolidated because people were paying taxes for Central Park, for this park district, for this area. And they said, no, we need to have one combined park and recreational system. So I voted in favor of that in 2007. And what was supposed to happen was there was supposed to be a transition for the village of Maywood to transfer the seven parks as well as the facilities, the 200 South Fifth Avenue building, the 1100 South 11th Avenue building, and Veterans Park, which is the park behind the police station. However, the village have always took that stand that they wanted to dictate. Well, Maywood Park District, since you all have had your own four parks, you have to show and prove to us that you can take care of your parks and facilities. And then once you prove to this village board, then we'll transfer the parks over to you. And that's not how the Maywood residents voted. They voted for it to be one consolidated park district. So during that time from 2007 until 2021, I mean, they're still collecting tax revenue for recreation. And
Mm.
those parks have sat dilapidated, not being taken care of, even though the village of Maywood was collecting revenue to take care of the parks.
So they
And
did
they
not
didn't
invest that
manage
tax
them, they didn't
revenue.
maintain them.
Mm. Okay, so they
No, they
have not.
didn't. Matter of fact, yeah, well, that was back in yeah, from 2017 all the way up until 2023. They didn't put any funding into the parks at all. And that we're talking about the ones that the village has been operating. And they
Right,
didn't comply with the wishes of the Maywood voters, including myself, with transferring the parks and the facilities. It didn't say on the ballot, well, you have to prove to the village of Maywood that you could do this in order for those parks to be transferred over. It was always
right,
somebody's contingency plan. Well, hey, the park district has to prove to us, and then we'll do this. So the
right.
village still has not complied. But the one constant has been the attorneys, law firms, Klein Thorpe and Jenkins. They've been, can we discuss like how many millions of dollars that in fees that they have acquired because of the back and forth between the Maywood
Hmm.
Park District and the Village of Maywood.
Right. Yeah, they're probably making a
And the
lot of
Maywood
money.
Park District has not had a fair opportunity to be. Yeah, they have. And then we have not, the Maywood Park District has not had a fair opportunity to be able to have their properties, all of their properties, and all of their facilities so that they could be the viable force that they need to be in this community and we could compete like everybody else. If you have a fully functioning park district, in your community that's providing services and recreational opportunities for people of all ages, it increases your property value by 99%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Illinois Association of Park Districts
Right.
have taught us. That's their motto. And that's what I've been working so hard so that we can have that here in our community. But it's hard when you got other agencies holding on to properties, for their own personal gain. And park
Yeah.
and recreation it's not just leisure. I mean, it's not just athletics. It involves community engagement, and it calls
Yeah.
cultural, educational, science,
Mm. Right.
trailways, waterways, tourism, what
Mhm.
museums, whatever you can think of is under the umbrella of park and recreation. And we have
Absolutely.
so many leverages that we can go after if we had the opportunity to have everything and be made whole, brought back to this Maywood Park District. And we have not had
I
that
want to,
fair advantage.
yeah, I want to bring up the discontent between the park district and the village board at its current administration under the Booker administration. But prior to him, as you stated, Mayor Yarbrough was the mayor in 2007, but there's been a succession of mayors after him, right? Um, those mayors that followed him up to Mayor Booker still had that same position. You have to have your finances in order before we turn the parks over to you. Why do you think that's still the case? Because now Mayor Booker is the, I guess I assume, is the latest person to carry on that stipulation or addendum, if you will. Why is that the case? Is it because there's been five executive directors? Um, is it because the most recent one allegedly mismanaged funds, or because there's been no programs? I mean, these are things that the public are talking about. Um, in your purview, being a board president of two terms, what are your thoughts about that?
I would say that I know everyone has their own vision and their own idea of what they feel the Maywood Park District should be. And with the prior administrations, under Mayor Perkins, even with Henderson Yarbrough, they just did not take the time to get it done with the transfer. Now, Mayor Booker did campaign in 2021 that he would be the driving force to consolidate the park district and transfer everything over to the Maywood Park District. And see, Mayor Booker has been involved in the Maywood Park District since 2019, from 2019 all the way up until 2023. He was in our house every day, um, hanging out at the park district because the parks are a fun environment. We're a welcoming environment, and he was here. I think, and he campaigned once again in 2021 that this is what he would do. But the relationship between himself and the previous administration went sour, and then now it's the takeover. Well, we're just going to go ahead. The Village of Maywood, we're in a position that we'll just take you all over, and that's not what's supposed to happen. Another government municipality is not supposed to be trying to take over another government municipality. And I'm not perfect, but I am improving. And by the grace of God, I'm hoping to resolve all of these outstanding problems with the Maywood Park District. And I'm not giving in, and I'm not going to give up. And it's been a challenge. It has been a challenge. Um, I don't understand why the village is reneging on what they said that they were going to do. And it's not just the mayor; it's the
What?
entire village board. The senator had the senator had a series of three-hour meetings in 2021 to draft up an agreement to do the transfer within two different stages. And that did not come into fruition or compliance because the village of Maywood had their own issues. When Mayor Booker got in, he had a revolving door of village managers. So then that agreement that was drafted up, which now they're saying it has an expiration date. There was no expiration date on the original agreement. What the expiration date was a management agreement that was drafted up between our previous executive director and the village board. and a couple of members that are on our board that ran under the Mayor Booker's ticket. So, and the management agreement had an expiration date. And so basically that management agreement said that the Maywood Park District would manage at our cost with our funding the 7 parks and the facilities that the village of Maywood had not taken care of in over 18 years. And so we did put funding. We put funding into the 200 South Fifth Avenue building and in excess of 70 some $1,000 and hasn't gotten reimbursed.
Wow.
And we did put funding into manage the parks. But the agreement was if we didn't do things within a certain time frame, then the village of Maywood had the right to take back everything. And so I was like, when you
Mm.
look at this agreement, that was not a fair agreed management contract
Yeah, it's unfortunate
to the
that there's
Maywood
still
Park
this.
District, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, the divisiveness that is permeating and is coming almost embarrassing to see this happening in our community. I want to ask you, Don, what is there any resolution as far as the tax revenue that the village is generating that should be allocated to the park district for those previous years, including that they've obtained? Has there been discussion about that? Can you talk about that?
That is something that we've asked our attorney to definitely look into. So that's going to be something that's going to be forthcoming because you're looking at an astronomical large sum of funding that could have gone to the Maywood Park District, and that would have considerably increased our budget and given us a fair opportunity to be the caretakers of the parks, put us in a better position to be able to not only manage the parks but provide services and provide opportunities for people here in this community to be able to enjoy the parks. We're leisure and enjoyment, and that would have greatly enhanced that if we had access to that funding, over the past, of course, 18 years.
For sure.
So, and I just
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead, Reggie.
So
No,
I
I was
want to.
just saying the mayor has hired a public relations firm to put out lies about the park, you know, and he's got a website. I mean, he's just done a whole full-fledged campaign to just come after our park district, and it's really not fair.
I'm glad you said that. There's definitely some contention going on between you as a board president and Mayor Booker, but you pointed out something earlier that the village shut the park district down for a number of days. Why did that happen, and what impact did it have on the park district, in your opinion, the community?
That was a threat that was done in house by one of our commissioners, because the Maywood Park District didn't have any type of memorandum of understanding or any type of agreement with the Maywood Park District and the Village of Maywood. So there was a festival that the Village of Maywood wanted to have on our backyard, and they told us basically, you're going to open up the facilities. We can't afford to pay for uh, porta potties, so we want you to open up your buildings. We're going to use this. We're going to do this. We're going to use your tents. We're going to use your tables. And then we're like, well, what money are you guys going to pay us for? And they're like, no, you're going to do this for free. And so we were like, no, we're not going to do this. And the one commissioner at that time said that we chose contention over collaboration. So from him being on our board at any meetings or any being in his presence, we will have contentious from now on. And that has what occurred. He says, be prepared for your building to be shut down. Be prepared for your funding partners to leave. And then, this building is going to be non existent, you and your programs. So this is what's going to happen. So, acting on that threat, July 3rd, the Village of Maywood Code Enforcement did a team inspection. The electrical inspector, the plumber, as well as the code enforcement director and the code officer came, along with the health inspector, Cook County Health Inspector Shelber came, and they did a team inspection. And she inspected our kitchen. We passed our health inspection in March of 2024. And then she came and passed our inspection on July 3rd, 2024. She told us, and I was here during the inspection. John Rice was here during the inspection. Our executive director, Terod Cheney, and Jeffrey Eaton, Daryl Bass, we were all here. And Shelbers told us that the Cook County Health Department does not shut down facilities that provide services to seniors and kids in summer camp programs. So she told us if there was a violation, they work with those agencies to correct the violation, and they will not shut it down. So she said she didn't see anything for us to be shut down. 2 hours later, code enforcement conducted their investigation and then they left. 2 hours later, the Village of Maywood code enforcement director comes by, Walter Duncan, with his officer, and says, "You all have in the 921 building in the gym area electrical system that is severely outdated for 50 years. And because of that, it's an endangerment to the residents, it's an endangerment to people in that building." So they put signs up. We had activities going on in that building. They shut it down and told us that we had to comply with the village inspection. So we got the shutdown notice. And so we were like, okay, well, when can we come and get the village inspection? They told us we'll get the inspection on Friday because Thursday was July 4th, which is a holiday, so the village is closed. We went there Friday, the inspection report wasn't ready. The inspection report was not ready until July 17th. So many days later. So, in between that time, our building was shut down for 88 days. 88 days. So that's in the middle of graduation season. That's in the middle of family reunion season, birthday parties. So all of those rentals that the park district had reservations, we had to refund all of that back to the
Mm.
Maywood residents, no people that were booking. So we lost, and that was an amount of $14,000 that we had to reimburse. We also lost revenue because the
Yeah.
Maywood Park District operates on tax revenue, and we also operate off of rentals. That's where large portion of our funding comes off of rentals. And people rent out the backyard, they rent out the gym, they rent out the park area. And we lost that revenue due to the illegal shutdown because we had no reason to be shut down. What the mayor put out was the Cook County Health Department did an audit. They found out who does the shutdown is the Village of Maywood. And so by us being the governing authority, then we shut it down. When you contact the Cook County Health Inspector, Shelber, she'll tell you we did not shut down the Maywood Park District. She's like, that was something personal. She said, I didn't give the order and I had no idea that you all were shut down. So, but it was the Village of Maywood who did it.
And you said that was done illegally, correct?
Yes, it was because yeah, because you had a lot of seniors that come here and they were like, if that electrical system has been like this for all these years, yes, the electrical system needs to be updated, but
I just want to ask you just a side question. If that's the case, why wasn't legal action taken to try to um, try to receive lost revenue? Just curious if that was in fact the case, or you just want to move on.
the Maywood Park District, our attorney, yeah, our attorney, our legal, yeah, our legal, what she was really focused on was making sure that our facility, excuse me, was able to get open. And so it was shut down from July 3rd until September 20th. And the court dates are every time we went to court, it kept getting extended and extended out and extended out because of this and extended out because
Right.
of that. We tried to take care of it right away so
Mhm.
that we can have the facility open. But when you go to court and they just keep extending it, it feels like it was being drawn out. So then our legal was like, well, wait a minute. Maywood Park, just Village of Maywood, you're violating your own ordinances. You're violating this. You're violating. and you could post that up so that other people can see it as well as a copy of the health inspection report that shows that we passed. So there was a lot of opposition because they didn't want us to be open.
Hmm.
And we told our legal one one focus that we wanted went to the fall and have to refund the fall events and those rentals,
Right,
refund that revenue.
right, right. Um, who owns the Hampton Pool or the Hampton Aquatic Center? Is it the Village Maywood
The
or
Village of
is
Maywood, yes, the Village of Maywood has that park and they have that pool. So I think in 2021, they had one of their administrators had applied for a grant, which is an OSLA grant, to try to get the pool rehab. But when you have folks that are not well versed with recreation and with parking facilities and with pool systems, they did not appropriately write that grant. So what the grant was only going to cover was a liner, or cover the lining inside the pool. That whole aquatic center needs a total gut rehab because it's a 60-year-old pool that has not been updated and has not been properly maintained under the Village of Maywood. And the Maywood Park District, we came up with a plan to rehab the whole entire park with the previous executive director. She had drafted up a plan which would incorporate the OSLOD grant, and we had all these plans for the parks that once they were transferred over to us, on what we would do with those facilities. You know how everybody's going around talking about this big sports complex? That was an idea by our
right?
previous executive director and our park district board back in 2019 to create a sports complex. And what we were going to do was do a partnership collaboration with District 89 and put it over there on 13th and Harrison. That was an idea for the Maywood Park District, but you got the
Hmm.
mayor talking about, oh no, we're going to go do this. And then you've got, Trustee Peppers, he's talking about, well, yeah, we're going to build a sports complex. Well, no, that was an idea for the park district, and then Village Maywood is
Hmm.
not supposed to be in the business of recreation, but now everybody's talking about we're going to do this sports complex. But it was an idea by our park district. So can you let the park district professionals be the driving force and the leaders and the ones who are experienced to have them incorporate our own ideas for our own park?
So over there, when they're Van Buren School, is that where you're talking about? 13th?
Yes, over there, that whole area because
The
of the
whole,
parking,
yeah, yeah.
and there's no recreational resource over there. So that was an idea by our previous executive director and
Wow.
our park board in 2019.
Okay. So this isn't new. This isn't new. This idea isn't new.
So, but yeah, they want, no, it's not new. No, this is something that because we was like, it'd be very easy access right off the expressway, and then it would
Yeah.
service the needs for recreation activities in that area.
Right. Right. Amongst other things. As we start to wrap up this podcast, again, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule to join us this evening. I want to talk about your election, your candidacy, rather. How is it looking for you in spite of everything that's going on out there, rumors, whether it's baseless or factual? How is everything going for you as the writing candidate?
One thing I want to say is that I was maliciously and intentionally done by a dictator in the community, and because I wouldn't be bought and I don't follow along. And I've always been a standalone individual of working with a team and working with a group of individuals as you yourself. And I want to continue to be able to serve in the Maywood community in the capacity that I have been able to serve. And I am asking all the Maywood residents to write me in and early voting March 17th, as well as on April 1st. Write me in as a write-in candidate so that we can continue to do the work and make the Maywood Park District be a viable recreational source in this community, and that we could be comparable like other communities. So, my aunt and I, Auntie Karen, one thing she didn't do was go to board meetings, but she did attend our Park District board meeting in November of 2023. And she says, you know what, you need some help. You can't do this by yourself. And it's going to take a team of people to just say, hey, look, and the Maywood residents here in this community to take a stand for your park district, just like you all did with the library. When the library shut down 2013, they were $586,000 in debt and defaulted on a loan. The Maywood community got together and did what they needed to do to get the library open. The Park District, we're only $286,000 in debt. And where's the Maywood community? What it is, the solution, what they say is, oh no, we're going to dissolve the Park District because they can't take care of their finances. You all didn't do that for the library, and we just need a little help and just giving, and that's all we're asking. And that's all I'm asking. So I would like to serve another term on the Maywood Park District Board, and I would like for the Maywood residents to vote for me.
I
And
got
I
one question. I got one question. So the Park District is in debt. The library was in debt. The village is in debt to the sum of, I believe, $8 million or something like that. So with the money that's coming in from the casino, is all of that allocated to the village, or can there be a negotiation where some of that is, directed to the Park District? I mean, they have their hands in this, so is it just going to them so they can handle their business as well as those parks that they own or are taken care of?
I would have to do some research on that because I don't know how that casino funding is distributed. So I wouldn't be able to answer that question because I'm not aware of that.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
fair enough. One final question, because I know Terry in a minute he's going to be like, wrap this up, and I don't want to, but I guess we have to. Um, if you are reelected to a third term on the board, would you work with the village, the board, particularly Mayor Booker? Because it seems like there's an impasse between the park district and the village board. So again, if you were elected to another term, um, would you work with Mayor Booker or the board, and how would you do that without everyone being disagreeable?
What I would like to do is what transpired back in 2021, right before Mayor Booker was elected, was when we had our state our congresswoman who came in, and she did a mediation between our park district board and the village's board, and that's how the intergovernmental agreement was drafted up. I think that we need to call their board as well as our board together and come up with a solution. But we just need what the Village of Maywood actually needs to do is just honor the 2007 referendum that was passed and passed very hard to do. Transfer the parks over to the Maywood Park District and then allow the Maywood residents and the voters to hold us accountable. It wasn't stated that under this condition, then you got to prove to us you could do this. Then we would be able to collect additional revenue as well as tax revenue. So and rental revenue. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that we can do, and we have a director in place who will be able to help implement the vision for the Maywood Park District. So I have no problems sitting at the table and talking to the board of trustees as well as the mayor, whoever gets in at the election in April. We'll find that out very soon. But as you can see previously, I am a collaborator. And I have worked with different organizations here in the community when you look at my bio. And so I have no problems having establishing relationships and talking to people. But when you've got individuals that don't want that to happen, they're going to throw everything and the kitchen sink against you so that it doesn't happen. And then handicap you. That's what's happened to our park district now. We're it's being what this individual has stated. Oh, this is what's going on in the park district, but you're unfairly utilizing village services to cripple the park district, and that's not fair. So I would like for us to be able to sit down once the election is all over with, and the referendum has not expired, as that's been stated also in the community too, and for the village to transfer all the parks over and for them not to be in the recreation business.
Understood. Just for clarification's sake, you said earlier that there were 3 meetings that were held, and the senator, I guess, coordinated or mediated that. You were referring to Senator Kimberly Lightford, right? Okay, I just want to make sure for clarity's sake, so the
Yes.
audience can understand that. Okay, so that brings us to the end. Again, we should have a part two, maybe after the election, where you talk more about the vision and the strategic plan for the Maywood Park District, and even what you would do with the funds to bring the park districts that's allocated to you back to where it should be as far as the level of performance and programs. Because no question, growing up in Maywood, going to the park district on 9th Avenue, I mean, it was great times, and there were plenty to do. We didn't have to worry about all this, mess that's going on right now. So it was a non-issue, if you will. So
And see, Roger, you got to look at it. What the mayors, the former mayors, with Joe Freeline, with Donald
right,
Williams, with
yeah,
with Mayor Perkins, even Eugene Moore, what they,
mhm, right,
yeah, they had character, they had
yeah. I mean,
integrity, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. A lot of people, like I mentioned Aaron Peppers. I'm not one who is favor of one over another because growing up, we were all a community. We were a community. And, I played baseball against Aaron Peppers, but he's from Proviso East. I mean, he's from the community. You're from the community. The family's from community. We all grew up together. And politics aside, we got along, and that's why we were able to excel in academia or in life or our careers or whatever the case may be. And I'm genuinely concerned about today's youth, and the direction that they're headed under the leadership, because there is no leadership when you just allocating all your time arguing and going to court. It's not benefiting the youth. It's benefiting yourself. So I would like for us to return to or even improve, piggying back from the 1970s and the 1980s to make it a viable program, which will become a viable community again. So do you agree?
and one thing I want to add to that is we're governed by the Illinois Association of Park Districts, and when you go back to the history when parks were formed, we were always kept separate from the local governing municipalities so that we would not as in our current state. And park districts have always been separate. Now you do have municipalities that do operate park districts, but there's a whole lot of them in the state of Illinois that are totally separate from the local government because of the state, the statutes that have been established for.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, one final question. Sorry, Terry. Sorry, I just got to ask this question. To your knowledge, Don, who ran the Maywood Little League Baseball charter and the senior? It was a Central Area Park District, right? It was a park district, not the village of Maywood. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Right. No, it was the Central Area Park District. As I could,
Right.
I would have to contact, Joe Ponsetto and some of the older
Right.
ones that were involved yeah, I would have to give them a call, and ask them that question. But I am very sure that it was yeah, it might have
Yeah.
been the Central Park District.
Yeah, I think it was CAPD. Yeah, we need to bring baseball back to Maywood. I mean, in
Oh yeah,
the community.
absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. If people come to us, but we don't have the fields. Who has the fields is the Village of Maywood. So that's what I'm saying. If they give us back our facilities and our
Yeah,
parks, then we could be that viable force. And the most important thing that you said, generation has not been introduced to that community. We got a glimpse of it during the summer at the Maywood Park District with all of our wind down Wednesdays. We
hmm
had a lot of folks here in our backyard, a post of 300 people,
hmm
with the food trucks, hanging out, having a good time. And they said this reminds us of how it was when we grew up.
absolutely. I mean, like I said, it
And
wasn't
we
just.
just want to get back to that community, family oriented.
Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't just Mayor Williams, Mr. Williams going to the baseball games and stuff. It was Mr. Freelon. They were going to school plays, and you know, Mayor Yarbrough used to go to the baseball games or basketball games when we had summer basketball park camps. They played Randy McFarland and those guys played basketball at the Park District. They had summer league basketball and those kind of things. So it was an active and engaged community, but they
Mm-hmm.
also kept politics aside because they knew what most important was the youth, and that's what they cared about. And so, they worked together in whatever capacity to make it a cohesive community. But I want to give you the last word. I want to give you a minute or two to talk about what it is you have planned for the future, including your candidacy and your vision for the Village of Maywood as the continuation as Village of Maywood. Sorry, Maywood Park District board elected board member.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, it's fading out. What did you say, Reggie? I'm
I
sorry.
was saying I'll give you the last word. Give you a minute or
Well, what I
two.
would say
Say
is
whatever you
that
like.
we have a lot of partnerships. I said we have a lot of partnerships that have been established, and we have a lot of people that are waiting in the sidelines to say, okay, we have collaborative partners. We do have established relationships, opportunities here in this park district. So we're starting to get some of our tax funding coming in, and we do have a lot of rentals coming up, but we also have a lot of resources that's being put into our Maywood Park district. We have the historical component, we've got the educational, and to our Maywood Park district systems, as well as bringing back the sports component, with the baseball, the basketball, the wrestling. So, but like I said again, we just want to be able to have a fair opportunity to be able to provide those services as well as creatively. So, and it's not that hard to do. We have a vision and we have a plan in place. We just need to have the opportunity to be able to implement it. And I just thank you, Dr. Reggie Ratliff, for giving me this opportunity. Like I said, we do need to have a part two because I've seen, no, you've probably seen some of our board meetings. And I just our community to stand up. When you have men on the board that are cursing you out, calling you everything but a child of God, and this is acceptable in this day and time. I mean, if my grandfather was here and even if Auntie Karen was still here, that would not be tolerated. But I don't understand how at our board meetings that the cursing, the verbal assault, the verbal abuse, that type of behavior, it's unacceptable, and we're not able to get park district business done. It is a distraction so that park, and it's just really doing a dysfunctional board right now. And there's a lot of things that we're trying to do, but we just want to be able to have a fair opportunity to do it. So thank you.
Our pleasure. It's our pleasure. I do wish you all the best, Don, in your hunt to win a third term as a board member of the Maywood Park District. She is truly a servant of God. She is truly a person who's been in the vineyard, um, working, working and hoping for the best in the community. I do pray that the Maywood Park District and the village of Maywood will come together and really get to work to solve the problem that exists, because no one is hurting worse than the children. Without the children, there is no future. And a community that's divided will not stand. And so we have to rise above pettiness, or as people say, petty politics. There's enough problems in the world going on. We don't need another problem in the village of Maywood. So I pray that the community will stand up, will rise to the occasion, and start with early voting March 17th and continue to vote until Election Day on April 1st. Again, thanks to the Honorable Don Williams for coming on our podcast. We will have other candidates join our podcast, which we will also provide an opportunity to share their voice as well as their platform. And remember, keep God as the head and not the tail. I am your host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Until next time, be safe, vote, and good night.